Yo, what is up guys? It's me, Exactly, back bringing some more daily NBA news. So for real, these 2 weeks left in June, these 2 weeks until free agency starts cannot go by fast enough. Sure, we have the draft in like 6 days or whatever, but I need free agency to start right now. And then the summer league's gonna start, and that should be pretty fun. And then it'll be the longest 2 or 3 months of our lives when there is absolutely nothing going on in the NBA. Not looking forward to that at all. Anyways, thank you for coming back once again. As always, you guys already know that you are the real MVPs, and if anyone ever tries to tell you otherwise, just know that you still are the real MVP. And if you're new here, if this is your first time, then welcome. You are also greatly appreciated, but make sure that you smack that sub button and hit the bell as well so you can stay up to date with everything that goes on in the NBA on a daily basis. But now, let's just take a look at everything that is going on in the NBA. But first, a quick word about this video sponsor, athleticcases.com. Basketball, baseball, football, or soccer, no matter what the sport, you guys can now rock your favorite player on the back of your phone. Use the promo code Zach Lee for 10% off your order. Links are in the description box below. First up in the news, there are a lot of bad contracts in the NBA right now, but none of them, and I mean none of them, are as bad as Chandler Parsons, as he is owed $50 million over the next 2 seasons. $50 million for a player that probably shouldn't even be in the NBA anymore. And that is exactly why we are now getting reports that the Grizzlies are trying to trade Chandler Parsons by bundling him with their 4th pick in the NBA draft. As we got reports from The Athletic saying this: Memphis Grizzlies have gauged the trade market on a package of Chandler Parsons and the number 4 overall pick, league sources have told The Athletic. And also, according to the report, they're looking to trade down to around the 10th or 14th pick in the draft, or no lower than the 10th or 14th pick in the draft. However, where this gets extremely interesting is that we also got reports saying that the Dallas Mavericks wouldn't be willing to trade Harrison Barnes for Parsons and the number 4 pick in the draft. And what's interesting about that is Dallas wouldn't have to give up their 5th overall pick in the draft, of course, to do this trade. It would be Harrison Barnes for the 4th pick and Chandler Parsons straight up, which would actually be kind of ironic because the only reason Chandler Parsons is on the Grizzlies in the first place is because Mark Cuban was smart enough not to pay him as much he was asking for. However, at the same time, I'm not so sure how the Dallas Mavericks could say no to that trade offer. This will give them the 4th and 5th picks in the NBA draft, and they're a team that I think can afford to have a bad contract for a couple of years. They're rebuilding. They have to pay someone. They're not about to get any big name free agents. What's it gonna hurt to have Chandler Parsons' contract? It really wouldn't hurt anything at all. I mean, they gotta pay someone. Next up in the news, we have yet another hint being dropped about a possible Andrew Wiggins trade coming this summer, or at least that the Wolves will try and trade Andrew Wiggins this summer. We just got breaking headlines stating that Jimmy Butler is not a fan of Andrew Wiggins. And according to this report, sources familiar with the situation told Sporting News that Butler is uncertain about playing with Wiggins. Butler had problems last season with Wiggins, his work ethic, and his approach on the defensive end of the floor. This is actually very believable. If I was Jimmy Butler, I would have problems with Andrew Wiggins too. Considering when Butler was healthy, the Wolves looked like they were going to be the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. Boom, he goes down, and a month later, they're fighting to stay in the playoff race. Jimmy Butler has to come back early, not even fully healthy, just to make sure the Wolves get into the playoff. And a large part of this had to do with Andrew Wiggins underperforming, so I can see why he would have some problems with Andrew Wiggins. And the article also went on to say that Coach Tibbs had a similar problem with Wiggins throughout the season, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And remember that Jimmy Butler is Tom Thibodeau's favorite player, and Tibbs is not just the coach, he's also the president of basketball operations. So if Butler has a problem with Wiggins, then Tibbs automatically has a problem with Wiggins. And if Tibbs has a problem with Wiggins, then I don't need to say what's about to happen to Andrew Wiggins. For our next story of the day, and this is real quick, But one of the biggest talking points, not just in the NBA, but in the sporting world yesterday, was revolving around Mike Bibby, a player who was known for playing back on the Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s. And the reason that he resurfaced in the news for about the first time in 15 years was because, well, I guess he just stepped out of the gym for the first time in 15 years. As the Sacramento Kings Twitter page tweeted out, on a scale of 1 to 10, how jacked is Mike Bibby, with this photo of Mike Bibby looking absolutely jacked attached to it. For reference, here is a picture of him back when he was with the Sacramento Kings. The guy looks almost unrecognizable. Like, that does not look like the same person at all. What kind of steroids are you on, Mike Bibby? And you know, maybe, just maybe, if he was this jacked back when he was on the 02 Kings, the refs would have been too intimidated to do what we all know that the refs did back then. Next up in the news, yesterday we talked about how Michael Porter Jr. is injured once again, how he has a strained hip and had to cancel some of his workouts with teams right before the NBA draft, which was terrible news. But today we are getting more news about Michael Porter Jr., as articles are coming out claiming that teams are still comfortable with the risk of taking Michael Porter Jr. in the NBA draft. The Dallas Mavericks took it even a step further, as they flat out made it sound like they are about to take Michael Porter Jr. with their 5th pick in the NBA draft, as their GM came out on record saying this: "We've interviewed him twice, we've met his family, we're close to people in his camp, we know him." If they're going to take Michael Porter Jr., then this leads me back to the first story of the day. If they're taking Michael Porter Jr., then why on earth won't you trade Harrison Barnes for the 4th pick in the NBA draft? Will Michael Porter Jr. and Harrison Barnes really be able to coexist on the same team? I don't know. And also, Michael Porter Jr. does come with a certain amount of risk because of his injury history, so you would think that they'd want to have another pick that they could use on taking a more sure thing, like a Mo Bamba or just anyone else. I don't know, that's just my thoughts on it. But that isn't the only bit of news we got coming out about Michael Porter Jr., as Isaiah Thomas heavily vouched for this man on Twitter yesterday, as he said this: "Michael Porter Jr. is the best player in the draft, no question about it. Pass on him if you want to. Best player in the draft," he says. Back before his major back injury, sure, that would have been easy to say that Michael Porter Jr. is the best player in the draft. Even today, it's hard to make an argument for him not being the most talented player in this NBA draft, but part of becoming the best means you gotta stay healthy too, and that's a huge question as to whether or not he can stay healthy. And on top of that, there are also a lot of really good and really talented players in this draft as well, especially like in the top 5 or 6, and I'd have a hard time saying that right now I think Michael Porter Jr. is a better pick than someone like DeAndre Ayton, who is literally Joel Embiid 2.0. And for our final story of the day, the term underrated is one that gets thrown around by us NBA fans quite often. And one of the players that we often say is one of the most underrated players in the NBA is Chris Middleton. It's widely known that he really is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. And Chris Middleton made headlines yesterday for coming out and saying what everyone thinks, that he believes that he is the most underrated player in the NBA and that he's been underrated his entire basketball career. Probably so. I've been going through that my whole career. Even back to high school, I was a 3-star recruit, went to Texas A&M, and no one really talked about me there. 2nd round pick, get traded as a throw-in guy, and then I became a starter after that. So there's been this story my entire career. Do I feel underrated? Yes. Does that bother me? No, not really. Whatever happens or whatever they say, I'm going to try and be the best me at the end of the day. Hey, Middleton, first off, wish my Pistons never traded you. Let's get that clear right now. You're welcome to come back to Detroit anytime, even though why on earth would you want to? You got a fan right here in me though, man. And second off, you're like a discount version of Kevin Durant. I've said this before, and some people might think that's being disrespectful for me to call a player a discount version player of another player, but when you're calling someone a discount version of arguably the 2nd best player in the NBA, that's a compliment. I mean, that means they're a really good player, and Chris Middleton is a really good player. Anyways, that is going to bring us to today's question of the day. So Isaiah Thomas thinks Michael Porter Jr. is the best best player in this NBA draft. Now I want to know what you guys think. Who do you think will be the best player in this draft? Let's say 5 years down the line. In 5 years, who do you see being the best player out of this upcoming draft? Let me know down in the comment section below, but that is going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to smack that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more daily NBA news. Thank you once again for watching. I'll see all of you right back here tomorrow, but until then, keep getting the buckets, Team ITC, and I am out of here. Peace!